Welcome to the 1 to 9 podcast for interesting insights and knowledge from animals and other beings within multidimensional realms.
Hello, Karin.
Now we're back, and we're talking again today with some more fairies. And I want to do a little follow-up. The art fairies and the house fairies had said that my house was not balanced in the back room where I'd had other people's art. And so I've been moving my art around and rearranging it. And I want to hear from the art fairies, if you don't mind, Diana, to tell me if the art that I've added to the back room, which are some of my paintings and a couple photographs of the flowers, are helping balance the energy in this house.
Okay, so yes, they are saying, now this is not just the art fairies in the back room. These are the fairies throughout your first floor. And they're saying, yes, the energy is more balanced between the front and the back of your house, but it's still not quite the same. I think they're saying you need to wait a little bit more because energy takes time to clear or develop, because the art is not static. The energy in works of art is not static. It's always just moving around. And also they're saying, okay, I don't know how much time you spend in that back room now, but if you spend more time in there, it will help to sort of foster the same kind of energy that you have in your front room.
Oh, interesting. So the art fairies and the art itself is working on clearing the energy over time. It takes time for it to clear all the energies. And what is the benefit of me spending more time in there? Which I do spend time in there maybe when it's warmer out, but it's very cold right now, so I don't spend as much time there.
Yeah, so somehow the fact that your energy combined with the energy that exists in the room already, combined with the energy from the art, all works to have a certain level of energy. And they're saying because you're not spending as much time in the back room, the energy is not quite the same. One thing you could do to help speed up,
Well, I spent my time in there this morning. Did that help? I spent my time journaling in the back room this morning.
Yes, sure, it helped. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, Tom, thank you. And I'll check back in.
Yeah.
From time to time.
They're saying, okay, everything's going to work out.
Perfect. So I think that today we're going to move on to the fairies at Diana's B&B in Chincoteague Island in Virginia. They have stepped up to ask to be on the podcast, and I believe they're all very excited about being on. So Diana, you want to tell us what they're saying, what they're doing right now, and
okay,
what they have to share for us?
Well, right now, ever since we started talking about having podcasts about fairies, they were really excited. And the ones in Chincoteague, they actually started thinking about, how to transmit their part of the conversation to us. Since we're actually, me and Karin are not in Chincoteague, right? We are in Washington, D.C. So they came out with this, it looks like an old-fashioned kind of transistor radio or something like this.
Okay.
And they're gathered around it, and they're sort of twirling the dials. and so yes, we could hear you. You're coming through loud and clear. So they're giving me kind of like the thumbs up sign. So, yeah, they're good to go.
All right, that's awesome.
Okay, they're saying that it's actually pretty cold there. So the ones that are outside, they're now inside just because it's cold outside. Although they do love being outside, both the indoor house fairies and then the house gnomes down there.
Oh, so the outdoor fairies are actually gnomes in Chincoteague.
Well, there's like two different kinds down there.
Mm-hmm.
You got the fairies and the gnomes, and they look quite different, although they're about the same size. So the fairies look like, I see them as like regular little people. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the gnomes look like what we imagine gnomes to look like, like the statues of garden gnomes that lots of people have. So, and they're not really related. However, they're part of this larger community that's down there. So they know basically all the other fairies and gnomes on Chincoteague.
On the whole island.
Yeah. I mean, the island's pretty small.
I have to ask a question because we talked about cats and dogs briefly before, and they had cat attendant fairies and then with dog attendant fairies. And Chincoteague is famous for its ponies. And I'm just wondering if there's
pony attendant fairies.
Well, pony attendant fairies or pony fairies in general.
Okay, the fairies and gnomes we're talking to now, they're a little bit disappointed by this question because it's taken the focus off them.
Well, we can come back to the pony fairies after we're done with them. Then, if they would like, because I didn't mean to distract us.
Yeah, they thought we were going to be talking to them.
All right, let's talk to them.
And they've already waited a couple of weeks.
So. Yes, and they're present. So can they accept my apology?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they're saying you're fine.
Okay.
But we want to talk about us.
All right, here we go. So how many different fairies are there? Types of fairies and quantities of fairies. I think we had like 10 repelling fairies in my house. So how many fairies are there in this rather large bed and breakfast house?
Okay, so you're seeing there's about 5 in each room, and you may wonder why the fairies would be specific to each room. It's because each room kind of has a different kind of energy to it, because each room has a different kind of flowered wallpaper on it. So there's some of the fairies prefer one wallpaper as opposed to a wallpaper in another room. Okay, that's why they're fairies.
That's why they choose the room they have chosen.
Exactly. So there's 5 for each room. So that means, I don't know, there's like 40, 45 fairies there.
Wow.
That's a lot of them. Wow.
Yeah.
My God.
It is a lot of fairies. So what is their role in each room? What do they do?
Well, they're on vacation there. This is like a permanent vacation for them, They don't really have to do anything.
So they're vacation fairies in a vacation bed and breakfast.
That's right.
Okay, but they're just hanging out there because they like it there.
Yeah, no, they like it there, yeah.
So they're not doing any work at all. They're not clearing the area, keeping it clean, making sure that guests are happy, nothing.
Oh, well, that's not really work for them. That's they consider that as part of creating a nice environment for themselves. Okay. So they're doing this, for people that stay there, provided that they're nice people. If they're not nice people, then they kind of find ways to get rid of them. Play
tricks on them? Like, what do they mean, get rid of them? They're not like...
I'm not sure what they mean. There was one time, though... Oh, okay, sometimes when me and my husband, or just me or my husband go down there, it's like I kind of like feel that they're very sad when we leave, right? There was one time where I really felt that. And every time we started to leave, I would look back at the house and I realized, oh, there's still a light burning. That happened 3 times, even though I thought I'd actually gone through the house making sure all the lights were off. So, I don't know, I just thought they were maybe telling me in a more visible way that they were really sad, maybe even a little angry that we're leaving. Yeah. But that's kind of like an aside. They're not really mean fairies, of course they're not mean. But they're very happy that the Chincoteague house is going to be turned into a bed and breakfast where more people will be there, more nice people will be there a lot of the time. And I will be down there a lot of the time. So they're really happy about that. So their happiness actually makes the energy there more positive.
Okay.
Which is actually part of their, if you want to call it work, they don't think of it as work. That's why they say they're on vacation all the time.
Right. Well, I just asked them what they did. They could have said.
Well, they also go to the beach, too.
Oh, they do go to the beach.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Do they ride the ponies?
When they come across them, the ponies are not really at the beach. Or unless they go to the Assateague part of the beach, and then the ponies are there.
Oh, okay.
But the ponies are kind of like too big for them.
Oh, all right. I thought maybe, a whole bunch of fairies could get on one pony.
They could, yeah, but they like to visit with the ponies too. Because lots of times the ponies are just standing around, chewing the grass, eating, right? So the fairies go and visit with them.
Oh, okay.
And with all the birds down there too. Oh, they love flying on the birds.
Oh, so they're much more interested in flying around on the birds than riding the ponies.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, do they fly around on the birds to get to the beach and back?
Oh, they've got multiple ways of getting there. They can teleport themselves. They can just think, oh, I'm at the beach now. They can ride along with people, in their cars, on the rooftops of the cars. When people bike to the beach, they can hop on the bike basket or whatever, the person. Yeah, they've got different ways of getting around. Fairies themselves can fly too. So, But of course, that requires a bit of exertion. So because this is a vacation, they opt for more less strenuous ways of getting around, which makes sense.
Yeah, definitely makes sense.
Oh yeah, and then of course, they love ice cream.
So do you ever feel like a fairy yourself when you're like drawn towards ice cream and you have to go get some? Or do you feel you're sharing it with the fairies when you're eating it?
Yes, yeah, because they've got their own kind of like virtual ice cream, I guess. Flower nectar and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. That gives us some ideas, doesn't it? Flower nectar ice cream. I wonder if there is such a flavor yet.
There's lots of flowers down there, lots of plants. There's various kinds of flowering plants around the front porch of the Chincoteague house, and also my neighbor in the back. She's got this incredible garden. Unbelievable, really, all kinds of plants, all kinds of flowers, and even like miniature fruit trees.
So do they go over there to that garden and harvest some nectar and come back and make ice cream with it?
Yeah, that's one of the things they do. They also just walking around in the garden and just sitting under the plants and relaxing.
What about roses? Do they like to hang out in the roses?
Yes, yeah. And
do they have a favorite flower?
They've got they're saying no, not one favorite. They like them all. So that's what the house fairies do. So they're not really house fairies. They're indoor and outdoor fairies.
I see. And they're not mountaineering fairies at all.
Oh, no. Okay. There are some of them there that are mountaineering fairies. Or is it just the gnomes? No, it's they've learned this from the gnomes. Because one of the favorite things the gnomes like to do is actually slide down the banisters. I know. They just go, and then when it gets to the end, right, they just go flying up off the banister, and they don't mind if they just go splat, but they don't hurt themselves, So the fairies have seen all this, and they started doing that. And then there's also, they like climbing up the windows and stuff, but that's compared to kind of like the toboggan ride down the banisters. It's not as exciting.
I see.
Okay, so
how many gnomes are out there?
Okay, gnomes are not particular to the rooms.
Right.
Gnomes they're particular to the house. And again, like the fairies, they're both indoor and outdoor gnomes. There's probably about 10 to 15 gnomes.
And there are gnome families, like a gnome community?
Yeah, it's a gnome community.
Okay. It's not like gnome babies, children.
Okay, so like they're saying the gnome community is actually the larger Chincoteague gnome community.
Oh, okay.
And so they all know each other. So yeah, they're saying there are families there. And there's even a couple in my Chincoteague house, gnome families.
And normally, do they live outside and they're just in for the winter, or?
They're saying it depends. What does it depend upon? I don't know, it just depends on how they're feeling. Sometimes it gets really hot outside.
Oh.
So even during the summertime, they still like to be inside where it's cooler, as long as the AC is on.
Wow.
And then,
well.
Yeah, I know. See, I'm telling you, it's like, these are not your regular, I was going to say working class.
Like your
fairies and gnomes,
Okay.
These are ones their mindset is permanent vacation. But you also have to understand that even though they're thinking they're on permanent vacation, things to create a very nice environment for themselves and in extension for anybody else that's actually in that house and in the area.
Okay. So we had talked, not on this podcast, but we had talked before about there being a huge community and families of gnomes around my parents' house in Erie, Pennsylvania. And those were mostly outdoor gnomes. And they were that's a big family house, and there's family stuff going on, and there were family gnomes, and that community seemed to be mostly living outside year round, and it was very cold there. And that's totally different than the Chincoteague ones, which are more of a vacation area.
I know.
And the gnomes there are like, it's like, what do they call them? Snowbirds that go like to Chincoteague to like just chill out and to have an easy life.
Their life is not easy. Okay. But the mindset is different. The gnomes in Erie, Pennsylvania, in your parents' house, they're kind of like, the mindset is not vacation there.
Uh-huh.
They're working. Okay. They've got stuff to do every day. Like, I don't know, chopping virtual wood, gathering stuff, cleaning things up.
Sounds like life inside the house too.
Yeah, the gnomes in Chincoteague, their mindset is different. I don't know why. It just is. They're more relaxed about stuff.
Well, maybe it's because we're further south. Theoretically, the further south you get, the more relaxed people get.
I heard they're more polite.
They're more polite in Chincoteague.
Are they? I don't know. Yes, they are. They are more polite, yes.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. And so, of course, the fairies and gnomes are more polite, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So, do these fairies, do they have, I guess one of the questions that came up that I had to delay asking it is, are there kitchen fairies there?
Kitchen fairies?
Yeah, in your Chincoteague Airbnb or bed and breakfast, because as a B&B, the kitchen's kind of used to serve the clientele.
Okay. Well, okay. Now, it's not really a B&B yet. Okay. It used to be a B&B before 2018. So they are telling me that, yes, comes a B&B in August of this year again. There will be fairies there who are ready to help me in the kitchen, because that's where, even though their vacation mindset, okay, they want guests and also themselves, the fairies also, and the gnomes, to have good food to eat. And so even though I will be the primary maker of this food, they want to create a nice atmosphere and good energy for me to actually create delicious food. So that's what's going to be happening. There's going to be a small contingent of fairies that will help to do that.
Now, I kind of feel like I already know the answer to this question, but couldn't the fairies just go ahead and prepare all the food for you?
Yeah, if you want to eat virtual food.
I mean, what the heck?
Well, okay, they can make food for themselves to eat, but I don't think I would be serving the food that they make to like 3D human guests.
Okay, but just indulge me for a minute because, there are people that talk about eating something like prana, which is energy. And these fairies, I'm assuming, are doing that, right? They're consuming prana to...
Yeah, but they're also sort of
like ice cream prana.
Right. They're turning it into virtual things that we can identify.
Right. So like a muffin prana and
right.
smoothie pranas, whatever they're eating that's of their interest. So
what they're doing is when I'm actually creating food from like 3D non-virtual ingredients, they're adding their energy to that food.
So the food will have a higher or a stronger or a what? How would they describe?
A fairy vibration.
It'll have a fairy vibration.
Yeah.
So let's just say there's an adage that says you are what you eat.
Added bonus. Well, fairies themselves won't be into food,
No, I know, but it says, the adage is you are what you eat. So if you're eating this fairy vibration food, are you going to then
feel better?
You'll feel better, but you have some of those more intrinsic qualities of a fairy.
Yeah, you'll be more relaxed. You'll enjoy yourself.
Sillier, maybe? Better sense of humor?
Better, yes, yeah, exactly. Better sense of humor. They actually like, I was going to say playing pranks, but they're like being silly. They're not serious.
Right.
Okay?
So this is a really interesting aspect of fairies that I hadn't ever thought of before, and I don't know who else has thought of. I guess we could do some research on it, but food prep fairies, to bring, this higher vibration, or not higher, but, more playful and more relaxed vibration to the food that you're preparing is awesome. I mean, do I have those fairies in my kitchen when I'm cooking? Because I work on that all the time.
Let's see. What are they saying? You got to pay attention to it, and then they will start to do that. Okay.
And so if I could do that, anyone could do that. We could invite the fairies into the kitchen to help us prepare the food.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, well, theoretically, anybody could do that, but you kind of have to know, you yourself have to be at a certain energy level.
Am I at that energy level?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Phew. All right. So if you're called to do it, you're probably at that energy level, maybe.
Right.
If you're not called to do it, then do some work on yourself to enhance your spiritual or energetic character.
They're saying something to qualify this, right?
Okay.
It's like, even though the person, say, we're not talking about our houses now. We're talking about sort of like this hypothetical person somewhere out in D.C. Even though this person...
In D.C., you mean out in the world somewhere?
We're talking about this region. This person could believe in fairies, but perhaps they don't believe that they're not quite at that energy level where they can ask fairies to help them bring more energy into their food. But the fairies who are actually within their space could be thinking, okay, well, this person needs help. We'll just go and help them.
Oh, so the fairies could just automatically help. Well, I'm just putting it out there right now that I would like to be aware of the fairies and thank them for showing up to help me if they haven't been already, because that would make me really happy.
Yeah, okay, it makes them happy too, because it's all part of sort of like making the environment that you and the fairies, as well as the human people, making their environment more better,
More better?
Yeah, more better.
We need an
English.
Yeah, we need like some
here.
kind of more poetic fairies to like intercede here. How can we state this? But seriously, I put a lot of care into my food prep and, choices of what I'm doing. And I would love to know that the fairies are adding their magic.
But okay, they could have been doing this all along. However, I didn't know that they were doing this until you asked that question. And then they actually told me that, yes, this is what they do. Right? This is what they will be doing down there. So it could be that they've been doing this all along for you and for me,
Well, can we ask them? Have they been doing it all along?
Yeah, to a lesser extent.
Then they will be now because I'm aware.
Right. That I'll be thinking of this when I actually prepare food.
Just since we're on this subject a little bit, I want to say that, as I walk through my house now, I'm more aware of the fairies hanging with the art pieces and moving around my house myself after our conversations. And so I'm grateful that, we had this time to kind of expand my awareness, at least, of the fairies and hear what they had to say. So the Chincoteague fairies and gnomes, do they have something specific that they would like to say that I haven't asked yet, or you haven't asked yet?
Okay. Well, they are saying that they believe that relaxed and happy and in this vacation mindset all the time because they live in the moment. They don't really worry about the future. So that's their message.
So the idea of living in the moment and that ability for the fairies to accomplish that is considered a fairly high exalted state of being, and it's an advice that comes from many, many gurus and wise ones say that. And I have a question for the fairies, because I understand they're doing that, but they can do that because someone else, namely Diana, is providing them with a house, electricity, a place, a building, an environment for them to do that. And, so for Diana to completely live in the moment, she still has to be thinking, well, can I make enough money to pay the AC bill next month off of this place, or how much should I charge for the muffins? And it pulls her, forward and backwards in the timeline quite often. And it's hard to stay completely in the moment at every time for the person who's doing this, work, so that they can be in the moment.
For the fairies.
For the moment, yeah, the fairies and the gnomes can be in the moment because Diana's over there basically serving them with her work, which is not entirely in the moment, because that's what it takes for her to create this environment for the fairies to be in the moment. So I can understand that there's a symbiotic relationship there, because they're adding energy to her life and to the food and to the building and to the whole process of what she has to do. But at the same time, could the roles be reversed where the fairies are doing the work and Diana can sit there being in the moment the whole time? Just asking the fairies that question. Is it not a possibility?
Well, yeah, sure. The work, okay, this is what they're saying. Even that can be solved. Okay. So, they can engineer things so that whatever things need to get done will, to make the B&B run, spending too much time arranging or organizing or managing things. Oh, they're saying they wouldn't mind, or they would be pleased to take on roles like that.
Okay, that's
awesome.
That's awesome. So basically we're working towards a little bit more balance. Now, have we officially asked for that by just having this conversation?
Kind of not.
Diane has to ask herself.
One thing I do know is that I'm relying on them. I haven't asked them, right? But because they're bringing so much positive energy to the place, I'm relying on them to actually attract the right kind of bed and breakfast guests, okay? And enough of them, too. So you hear that, fairies and gnomes, you hear that, okay?
Diana's making a request, just putting it out there.
Part of our job. But see, they don't really think of it as a job, right?
Well, that's fine.
Just what they do.
I think that's awesome that they don't, I mean, the idea that...
And also when things like, okay, if Diana needs help with the cleaning, they'll arrange it so that, I don't know, somebody will show up. Diana won't really have to go searching extensively for, somebody to help with the cleaning. That's how they will help.
Right. Okay. And so we can extrapolate that to anybody who has high enough, I hate using the word high enough, but has a real relationship with the fairies that they can actually be helpers as not so much work, but just they can show up and they can be part of your life and they can make things a lot easier and they can work with you. And so you can reach more of a balance in your own life.
Yeah, I mean, if you're relying on them to help you organize things, right? You don't have to stress out about things.
Right.
You just know that with their help, things that are supposed to happen are going to happen.
So I'm wondering if these Chincoteague fairies, or any fairies, it doesn't really have to be the Chincoteague fairies.
And gnomes, too.
And gnomes. Right. Could actually, give us a little outline for not so much a course, but instructions for how to, they don't have to do it right now, but, we can invite them back because that might be a little course on how to actually become acquainted with the fairies, work with fairies, use them and enjoy them and, kind of make their own lives more peaceful and balanced by incorporating fairies or, some kind of fairies into their entire life.
So this concept of course is a little bit foreign to them.
Well, it's instructions or, steps on how to reach the point where Diana is, where you see the fairies and you're communicating with the fairies and you can work with them. Collaborate with them is probably a better word than work with them.
Right.
Or co-create with them. Kind of like I do with the art, is co-create with the fairies.
Right. Well, they're saying that they have to think about.
And that's fine, but we'll expect them to.
Yeah, because they've not really thought about this previously.
Okay. Well, that's fine. They can get back to us whenever. That was just a question I threw out there. So is there a special message maybe from the gnomes? Or was that a collective message that we got before about living in the moment from the gnomes?
No, it was gnomes and the fairies. Yeah.
Okay, the gnomes and the fairies.
And, it could be that this is specific to the ones that are on Chincoteague, right? Because they're of this vacation mindset.
It could be indeed. Well, that begs another question then. Are there plenty of fairies and gnomes in areas where they tend to be heavy in vacation areas that are similar? Because that area does have residents in it, but it also is really known for seasonality. And so people would come there for on vacation because it's close to the beach.
But the residents there also are of a vacation mindset.
Okay.
Everybody down there, whether they live there permanently or just...
Is it because they're closer to the water? Or is it just the area draws people in that are more vacation-minded or relaxed?
I think because it's kind of like isolated from the mainland, that contributes to it also somehow. Like the energy that's on the island is concentrated on the island. It doesn't burst onto the mainland. So
when you cross the bridge to go into the island, you're immediately going into a different energy, which is that of...
Yeah.
More relaxed.
No,
vacation.
The relaxed energy is on Chincoteague, and then if you cross the bridge, it's a different kind of energy.
I was crossing the bridge into Chincoteague.
No, right.
You're crossing the bridge out of Chincoteague.
No.
So, but yes. Well, that's interesting.
Isn't it?
Because you really do feel that, when you're heading somewhere, specifically, at least I feel like if I'm going to the mountains, I feel like I'm going on vacation. Or if I'm going to some island somewhere, I definitely feel like I'm going on vacation. Mm-hmm. I'm much more relaxed. I imagine a bigger island with a big city on it could be a little different, but
yeah,
quite
different. So
that's cool. So is it a good idea to switch over now to the Chincoteague pony fairies? Ponies, they're called ponies because most of them are a little smaller. They say sometimes that's because of what they eat out there makes them a little smaller than a big horse, but maybe we can get some insight on that too, why they're called ponies. Oh,
they're called ponies because they're actually half the size of horses.
Right, but I heard that was because of what they eat.
Oh, I thought it was because of their sort of descendants of some kind of special breed of horse that came over on Spanish galleons.
I know. I don't know. I've heard both things. So maybe they know. Maybe they could tell us.
The pony fairies.
Pony fairies.
I don't know if the pony fairies can actually tell us that. the pony fairies can talk to us about the existing ponies there.
Okay.
And so, the pony fairies, each pony's got 2 fairies.
2 fairies?
Yes, I know. Whereas the cats had 1, these pony fairies have 2. And even though ponies are certainly larger than cats, the pony attendants, they're not larger than the cat attendants. However, they do have a different costume.
If anybody's interested in what the cat costume looks like, you can check out our earlier podcast, the first one on fairies.
Yeah, so, and the pony attendants, they wear trousers because they've got to be more agile. And it seems like they're actually more involved in caring for the ponies.
Now, are these men or women fairies?
They're no sex.
Okay.
They're androgynous.
Okay.
I mean, I see them as kind of like little people, with arms and legs and bodies and heads. They're dressed in trousers, or I should say jodhpurs, which are kind of like knee-length trousers. And then they seem to have also kind of like these, I don't know what you call them, riding sticks. Not to beat the ponies, but just sort of like to tap them gently when they want them to do something or turn a certain way or whatever. So they help with the flies. They help with keeping the ponies' coats and manes like well groomed and clean, meaning so like no bugs in them. And also they try to keep the ponies happy. Like they play games with them. So if you listen to the previous podcast, the pony attendants are much more involved with the ponies that they're attending than the cat attendants are, which is kind of interesting, I think. It could be because at the moment I'm only talking to the pony attendants of the ponies that are not wild anymore.
What do you mean they're not wild anymore? Are they in?
Meaning that every year there's a roundup where the ponies from Chincoteague Island are brought over to Chincoteague, and the young ponies that are of an age to be separated from their mothers, I mean, they're all inspected and by vets and given medical treatment if needed. But then some of the younger ones, they're bought by people. So if they're bought, they're taken away. And there are people on Chincoteague that actually own ponies, so they have them in their backyards. And or what do we call sort of like the pen that ponies would be in. So maybe the attendants for these ponies are paying more attention to them because they're not free anymore and in the wild.
So do they get, the wild ones have 2 attendants as well?
That's a good question. Yes, I think they do. No. They have 1.
Oh, interesting. So the wild ones have 1 attendant, and then the
not wild ones have 2.
Okay.
Although it could be that the wild ones their life is not easier, because a lot of the time, you see them and they're always eating stuff in the marsh, and sometimes they're standing in the stagnant water for days on end.
The ponies or the
ponies?
Oh, the ponies are in the stagnant water.
Well, yeah, because it's
in the
marshland.
Yeah,
right?
It's marshland that they hang out in.
And I think probably the attendants the wild ponies have got fewer attendants because the attendants don't want to be standing around in the water all the time.
Wouldn't they be riding the little ponies on their back or something?
But they can't do that all the time.
Oh, I see.
All
right.
So you've got the really hardy attendants who are willing to go and be attendants to the wild ponies.
And
those are the ones who are really dedicated to their jobs.
And do they have little boats and stuff?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. So this is a hard life for these attendant fairies.
Well, like I said, they're dedicated, so they don't think of it as a hard life, but they want to do all they can to make sure that the wild ponies are safe and healthy. So there's communication between the wild pony attendants and the tame pony attendants also. Well,
I have a question, but Diana's sitting over there laughing because she's surprised. She's surprised at finding anything out about these pony fairies. But, so they're in a way like other animal attendants. Their main job is to keep the animal
happy and healthy.
Yeah. So they don't do any collective energy work out there necessarily for making it more of an island or relaxed atmosphere.
Well, no, their job is make the ponies' lives happier and healthier and protected. And by doing that, they make the whole island, they contribute to the whole positive energy of the island.
So the ponies are in the marshland a lot. Is that because they choose to be there, or is that really the main wild area that's left for the wild ponies?
Oh, no. It's not that the area has been built up or the only thing on there is basically this little town. Mm-hmm. The rest of it is protected federal land. And
they choose the marshes because they
eat the plants there.
Oh, they really like the plants, the marsh plants. Mm-hmm. And do they go up on the beach like the Assateague ponies?
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me?
Oh, so they love the beach.
Yeah, they love the beach, too.
Okay.
Yeah, because those two beaches are connected.
I see. Yeah, so they can go back and forth anytime they want.
Right. But, they're not going to be... The wild ponies are not going to be, walking in amongst throngs of people.
No. Although I've been camping down there on Assateague, and the ponies will do that.
Yeah, I know, but there's not that many people camping down there.
Especially if you have some food.
Oh, I know. They come into your tent. I've been camping down there, too. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be careful. Mm-hmm. They're worse than raccoons. I just put it that way. Or
they're hungry all the time. They're always looking for food.
So their main life is just eating.
Yeah, just like the pigs. They're eating. So that's the wild ponies. The tame ponies have got a little bit easier since they don't have to go out and look and forage for their food. They get it handed to them.
But the pet ponies, they often give rides to people.
Well, hopefully it's just to little kids.
Oh, okay. Because they're small.
They're
horses.
Small.
Yeah.
An adult sitting on one of these ponies would break it. Oh.
I think Diana's thinking of a really big adult, because some adults are kind of small.
Well, I wouldn't feel comfortable sitting on a pony. I don't think the pony would like that.
Okay.
So
is there anything that the ponies or the pony fairies want to say to us?
They're saying, come on down and see Chincoteague, see the ponies.
So they're like an ambassador for the area.
Yes, yeah. At the wild ponies and the tame ponies, they both love it down there. And
they love it when people come.
Oh, yeah, they do. Not too many people, though. But they're excited because, they're getting all this attention. And I think that's one of the reasons people come down there, to see the wild ponies.
Yeah, it's very exciting. At least on the East Coast, there aren't very many places you can see wild ponies or horses.
Right. Yeah.
Do they ever gallop around?
Okay, the only time I've seen them gallop around is during this roundup that happens in July.
Well, ask them. Do they ever gallop around when no one's looking?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, they gallop around. Mm-hmm. They like to have fun. I mean, okay, they're not eating all the time, right?
Okay, now we're finding out they have a little more life than eating.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they gallop around, they play amongst themselves, they take naps, they walk through the woods, they're curious, they look for things. Oh, they like watching the birds. Some birds hang around them and eat the bugs off of them. Yeah, they like watching the people too. Sometimes they think people are really crazy.
Well, we are. We aren't immune from being crazy, a little crazy, a lot crazy. Would they be happier if we gave them their own beach in the summer where there weren't any people?
Oh, but they kind of have that anyway with the Chincoteague Beach.
But the Chincoteague ponies can't really get there.
No, they can. They just walk down there.
Oh, okay. So they go back and forth between Chincoteague and Chincoteague.
Yeah.
Quite fluidly.
Yeah. They can swim. They can walk. No, they like it there. They've got enough space. The land is not being consumed. They've got enough to eat.
And they like people. They like interacting with people the way they do.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily want more interaction.
No. They don't want more interaction. What they have is fine.
Mm.
And they may think of sort of like the tame ponies as being sort of like, lost causes in terms of they were kidnapped or something like this. But there's enough communication between them for them to realize it's not really the case. But there's some that really prefer to be wild. And there's some that don't mind or like being tame.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all individuals.
Right, they're individuals and a collective at the same time, right?
Right.
Yeah, just like us.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they have any advice for us, humans?
This is kind of weird, but they're saying stand your ground. And I don't know what that is in reference to.
The ponies are saying that, or the pony fairies?
The ponies are saying that. Stand your ground.
And do the ponies have anything to say? I mean, the pony fairies? Sorry.
They're agreeing with that, but again, it's like...
Stand your ground.
Stand your ground. I don't really know what the context of that is. And they're saying, don't get pushed around. Okay, I can't imagine... Okay, who would be pushing around the wild ponies?
Well, they're giving that advice to us, the humans. So
yes.
They're saying us humans don't, stand your ground and don't get pushed around.
Oh, no, that's right. Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to live free.
Live free.
Live free.
If you don't.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you for that piece of advice.
Yeah, no, they're saying, oh, you're welcome, but this is what we live by.
Oh, interesting. And do they have a favorite food that they like? I don't know why I asked that after I asked the advice for humans, but...
A favorite food?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're saying what they eat is not that varied. But there are some berries that grow down there, I believe, and they like them.
Well, blackberries?
They're kind of like a dark-colored berry.
Mm.
And they really like them. But, of course, they only eat... I mean, they don't grow year-round, only specific times of the year. But they like the grass they eat, too, so...
All right. Any final word? Yeah, before we go back to the Chincoteague fairies, or all fairies, And just get a final.
No, they're saying bon voyage.
Bon voyage.
Bon voyage. Maybe they are going somewhere. Maybe the ponies are going somewhere. I don't think the ponies are going somewhere.
Do the ponies time travel at all, or they just stay there?
It's an interesting question. They can time travel. They can go backwards and into the future.
Oh, very interesting. What would they go back in? What would they go into the future for?
Just because they're curious.
Oh, okay.
And they're saying they can't really go that far into the future. They can't go like 100 years or 200 years. They can go maybe like 50 years. Mm-hmm. And, I know why they go. They're saying they go there because they can see their lineages.
Oh.
Yeah. And they want to keep track of that.
I see. And so they go back in time to say something to their lineages as well?
Yeah. Again, to keep track of them. Mm-hmm. And they go forward in time just to see what's possible.
Oh. Very interesting.
Yeah, isn't it?
All right. Do all the fairies of Chincoteague want to say anything?
They're just saying, bye. See you soon.
All right.
And so they're just waving the fairies and the gnomes from the whole island. And they're waving goodbye.
I'm expecting that's millions of them.
Probably millions. Well, maybe not millions. Certainly thousands, right?
All right. Goodbye. Thanks for showing up today. Thanks for all your words of wisdom.
They're saying, bye, you're welcome, bye, see you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
That's all for this episode of the 1 to 9 podcast. Thank you for listening, and please sign up for our newsletter at 1to9podcast.com.